is a complaint filed by a passenger, a bicyclist, a motorist, a pedestrian, or virtually any member of the public, right? And what are some common complaints that we receive? An example is stopping, standing, or parking where it's prohibited by city or state law. So that essentially that's no parking, no standing, and no stopping signs when you're stopped and stationary in violation of a posted sign. Right? Then you also have refusals, refusing to take a passenger to his or her destination. Right? It's also a common complaint. We also have discourtesy, so that means being rude to a passenger. We also have a harassment rule, so that could be against the passenger or any member of the public. There's also other traffic violations such as unsafe lane changes. What else? Also overcharges, not complying with reasonable requests from passengers. And lastly, using a cell phone or other electronic communication device while operating a car, right? A TLC licensed car. Now, one important thing to note about consumer complaints is that TLC investigates each and every complaint when we receive one, okay? And if we have reason to believe that a rule violation has not been committed, the complaint simply gets closed. Right, so what type of investigation do we do? For one, if it's, let's say, a medallion or a street held livery where we have easy access to GPS, we'll pull the GPS records to see if the vehicle was even at that location that the complainant states it was, right? Because if the vehicle's not there, obviously something's wrong. Either the complainant's gotten the wrong medallion number or is mistaken about where the incident occurred, right? On the flip side, if we have reason to believe that a rule was broken, right, based on what the complainant tells us, and if what they tell us matches up with the GPS records, what we'll do is we send out a settlement offer with a reduced fine to the driver in question, okay? And you are never required to accept the settlement offer for any case. You always have the option of going to a hearing and presenting a defense in front of a judge, in front of a hearing officer. Okay. If the settlement offer is not accepted within the time allotted, which is usually about 15 days, you will automatically receive a second communication. This time it will be a summons with a date and time for you to come to court where you can defend yourself against the charges. Okay, and we do have within the presentation a sample consumer settlement offer. It's a little small, so I'll basically describe to you what it is. So essentially at the top, it'll have the driver's information, but then in the middle at the top, there's a description about what the complaint actually states, what the passenger or pedestrian, whoever called in and made the complaint, there's a description about what they said went wrong either during their trip or during whatever interaction they've had with a particular driver. Next, there's a table with the rules that we are alleged to have been violated in connection with the incident, right? So we list the rule numbers, a description of the rule, the minimum and maximum fines, and whether suspension or revocation is possibly at issue if you go to court. All right. The settlement offer also lists, again, a reduced fine. It offers for you to plead guilty to one of the charges that we're alleging for a reduced fine. If accepted, that's the end of the case, right? There's no need to come to court, no need to do anything. If you sign it, mail in payment for the amount that's requested, that's the end of it. However, as I said, you don't have to do that. You also have another option. The other option is, again, to just wait for your summons and your day in court. And it's very important to note that whenever you get any communication from TLC, you can always contact us at our office, which I'm actually just realizing the phone number here is not right. We'll get them the correct phone number, but it's 718-391-5584. Okay, so we have someone answering the phone at all times to answer your questions, even if you have a defense, if you have any evidence to support your version of the story, you can call us. It's probably better to come in, especially if you have evidence so we can actually see it. But in any event, if you have any general questions, we're happy to answer them over the phone. If you have like a very specific information about your case, it's better to come in person. Okay. Also, we have a sample consumer summons. Okay. And it lists, again, the description of the complaint, right? It lists, again, the rule numbers, rule descriptions, minimum and maximum fines. But here, instead of a settlement offer or a settlement offer amount, you see a hearing date and time where you can appear at our Long Island City office, well, specifically at the oath office, where our complaints are heard, where you can appear and present a defense. If you are choosing to have a hearing, you're free to retain an attorney, right? Unfortunately, at your own cost. And there's also non-attorneys, we call them industry reps, that also regularly represent drivers in the tribunal. Okay, so here's some general tips on what to do when you receive a TLC communication. The first thing you want to do is read the document. I can't stress that enough because we get a lot of phone calls with questions that could easily be answered if you were just to read the document, right? So you should read the entire document and determine what type of communication it is, right? Perhaps it's a directive, right? So we haven't talked about directives yet, but a directive requests action, right? It might request you to produce documents. It might request for you to come in and talk to someone. It might request that you bring your vehicle in. A directive will request action and generally will have a due date or a specific time for compliance, a specific time where you have to come in. Okay? In order to avoid a summons after a directive, all you have to do is comply, right? Or if you have a good reason for not complying, it's important that you reach out to us to explain that, because if you have a reason and you do not express it to us, you will get a summons. All right, so how can you tell if what you've received is a summons? If it's a summons, it'll list one or more rule violations, alleged rule violations. It'll have an incident time and location as well as a date. And there will be a narrative. A narrative is a description of what happened or what is alleged to have happened that we are saying is a violation of TLC rules. Okay. It also will have the hearing date, time, and location. How do you know if it's a settlement offer? You'll know if it's a settlement offer if it has a rule violation, a reduced offer amount, a signature line, and agreement language. Okay, it'll have the actual terms of the agreement that you are agreeing to potentially. Okay. So if you do receive either a settlement offer or a summons, it's really important to read the rule that is cited against you. Okay, and the penalty that you are facing is maybe even more important. If you don't understand something, it's important to get help. You can come to our office, you can call us. Although we cannot represent you, we can at least explain your options to you, okay? It's, of course, the best case scenario is that you hire your own attorney, but we understand that not everybody can afford one. So if you come in and request at least an explanation of what's happening, any of our prosecutors are happy to do that. Okay. Oh, and actually on this page, responding to TLC communications, we actually do have the correct phone number, 718-391-5584. So that's the key phone number that you guys can call. All right, so if you've received a summons or a settlement offer after you've read the rule violation and you know exactly what it's about and you know what penalties you're facing, you kind of have to make an individual decision about whether or not you want to defend yourself in court or if you want to potentially settle the matter if TLC is willing to settle. We generally do settle most cases, right? And essentially, a settlement offer is best accepted by someone who remembers an incident and accepts some form of guilt in whatever is alleged to have happened, right? So if you read a settlement offer in a description and you think, oh yeah, well I actually did do that, or some of that is true, it probably would be in your best interest to just accept it, but that is an individual decision that you and perhaps an attorney or your own representative might make in conjunction amongst yourselves. However, if you believe you are not guilty or want to dispute the alleged violation in court, what you want to do is gather any evidence or witnesses that you might have to support your defense. Okay, so if that means getting actual people who were there to witness what happened, or whether it means getting records, right? It could be a repair receipt from a repair shop. It could be a notarized statement from someone that witnessed a particular incident. It could be a police report, let's say, depending on the nature of the incident itself. It is important to note, however, that if you do not accept the settlement offer, you will receive a summons in the mail and are likely to face higher fines if you go to a hearing and lose at the hearing and are convicted. So in regards to seeking representation, so that means seeking either an attorney or a non-attorney representative to represent you in court. It's a personal decision that you must make on your own behalf as to whether or not you need a representative, okay? An attorney or representative familiar with TLC can offer advice on how best you can proceed once you've received either a summons or a settlement offer. And they can actually help you clearly present your defense if you choose to go to a hearing, right? We realize that most drivers are not attorneys, right? And when you guys come into court, you're up against TLC attorneys, right? So it sometimes is much easier if you have a rep or an attorney to help you because they can kind of clearly lay out your defense in a way that's going to be easy for a hearing officer to understand. Most attorneys and representatives will charge a fee for representing you. Okay, and you always have the option of representing yourself. It's important to always remember that TLC employees do not represent you. It will not give you advice. Okay, what we do is explain your options. Okay, hearings on TLC summonses. So all of our summonses are heard, well, almost all, are heard at the Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings, which is located in the Fauci building, so it's the same location as our licensing division, and it's just right across the hall, okay? And when you go to court, TLC has the burden of proof, right? So the same way in like a criminal matter where you're presumed innocent, when you walk into a hearing room, you're not already guilty, right? Sometimes we'll see drivers come in and they'll ask the judge, well, am I guilty? So the judge doesn't know if you're guilty right away, right? You walk in with a presumption of innocence. TLC has to make a case against you. Okay, well, we have the burden of proof. All right, so there is a very specific order in which the proceeding goes, right? So TLC must go first. And it's sometimes very difficult to kind of sit still and calm while TLC presents its case, because sometimes we'll have a witness, it could be like a passenger that is giving their version of the story, and you may have things that you want to add in, right? Well, you want to respond to every sentence that they say, but that's not a good idea, right? The reason being is because you will have your full opportunity to say your side of the story once TLC goes through the entire case. So don't become discouraged if you come to a hearing and you feel like the judge is only letting TLC talk. The reason is that we have a burden. We have to satisfy that burden to prove that you even did anything wrong, right? So that is why, you know, when you come to court, the TLC speaks first, okay? Once we're done, you're allowed to question our witnesses, and you're also allowed to present your own case. So put on your own defense, call your own witnesses, present your own evidence in support of a not guilty finding. So once the hearing is done, the judge will issue a written decision. You can either wait at the office at Long Island City to receive a copy of the decision, or you can go home and it will be mailed to you. Generally, all of the judges will confirm your address before you leave the hearing room. And if you happen to get a decision that you don't like, you have 30 days from the decision date to appeal, okay? You can always appeal a decision if you don't like it. Defaults. So if you have received a summons with a specific date and time for you to appear in court, it's very important that you take some sort of action, okay? If you don't come in to settle the case prior to that hearing date and you don't appear for your hearing, your case will be defaulted, okay? And what that means is that you will be automatically found guilty of whatever charges are listed on the summons, okay? The reason being is that you're not there to defend yourself against the charges, and the judge will assume that you are guilty by virtue of your non-appearance at the hearing, okay? And you'll be assessed the maximum fines for the charges, which can include very large fines, and suspension or revocation of your TLC license. So it's very important to appear for your hearings when they're scheduled, because the consequences of not appearing are substantial. Appeals. So as I said, each party, so each side, driver and TLC, has 30 days to appeal. So if you don't like the decision, you're free to appeal within that 30 days, but it's really important to also note that sometimes if the case gets dismissed, if it's not properly dismissed, TLC also has the right to appeal, okay? If the decision is mailed to you, you actually get an extra 5 days. So you actually have 35 days to appeal if the, excuse me, if the decision is mailed. When appealing any case, whether it's the driver or the TLC, we must provide the court with proof that we've given a copy of our appeal to the other side. So I'm a TLC representative, right? So if I am appealing a case, I have to show proof to the court before they will even take my appeal that I have served a copy to the driver, right? The reason being is that once I serve it on you, you have 30 days to respond to my appeal, okay, before the court will even issue a decision. You have 30 days to respond. The court will look at both sides, both documents, and then make a decision on the whole record, on everything that was presented. All right, so even further to an appeal decision, if you get one back that you don't like, there's actually another step that you can take. You can petition the chairperson, okay? And that's the chairperson of TLC. You can file, it's almost like a second appeal, right? And you can basically make your plea to the chairperson as to why you think the case or charges should be dismissed. Okay, fines and penalties. So let's just say you've appeared for a hearing and it didn't go so well and you were convicted on one or more charges that were on your summons. The fines are due within 30 days of the decision, okay? If the decision imposes a suspension or revocation, those penalties are imposed immediately. So if you get a decision that says your license is suspended, it's not a good idea to then go and start picking up passengers on your way out, right? You want to immediately cease all TLC-related activity. And if you are at that point interested in settling the case, your options are very limited, but you're still free to come over and at least ask TLC if there are still any options, excuse me, for you as far as getting a reduced fine. For settlement offers can either be accepted by mail. If you receive them in the mail, you can just mail it back with a money order, or you can come in person and accept a settlement offer. If you come in person to accept a settlement offer, you do not have to pay right away, okay? The terms of the settlement offer will tell you how long you have to pay. Generally, it's 15 to 30 days. All right, so you actually have to read the settlement offer, or you can ask the prosecutor, whoever is assisting you, how long you have to pay, okay? All right, and it's also important to note that if you are assessed large fines, $500 or more, payment plans are available For amounts between $500 and $1,000, you would get an additional 30 days to pay if you come in and let us know that you're having some issues. You know, if it's $1,000 or more, we can actually break up those payments into multiple payments that are more manageable for you. And lastly, before I hand it over to our driver protection unit supervisor, I want to let you guys know that free interpretation services are available at TLC and also at OAT, which is the agency that hears our complaints, that actually adjudicates them in court. Interpretation services are always available. Don't be shy about asking for them if they're necessary. While, you know, a lot of people feel confident communicating in a kind of informal setting, let's say with passengers in English, when there are legal terms and very substantial fines at issue, it's really a good idea to get a translator if you think at all that it would be useful.
So how many of us here today are yellow cab drivers? Anybody drive a yellow cab? Okay. Anybody drive Uber, Lyft, black car livery? Okay. Green cab? No green cabs. Okay. Well, my name is Yasmin Dwidar, and I'm the supervising attorney of the driver protection unit, and it's my job to protect the drivers that drive the yellow cabs, the green cabs, the liveries, Uber, Lyft, Get, you name it. I'm the person that you're going to end up calling. So just to explain some of the materials that I handed out, they're the actual versions of some of the things that are in the slides, so you can read them. And I'll get into that when I get to that point. But I want to explain a little bit about what we do. So yes, we protect your rights, but what does that entail? We investigate illegal conduct, so that's one of the things that we do. And we go through our rules. So the TLC has a bunch of rules. If you go to our website, there's a section for it, and you can read. There are rules for the yellow cabs, the green cabs, and the for-hire vehicles. And you can feel free to review that. But basically, we review that from time to time to see if there are ways for us to increase protections for drivers. So for instance, right now, one of the projects our office is involved in is looking at the for-hire vehicle industry, because there was a time that we didn't see something like Uber and Lyft coming onto the scene. So we're trying to figure out a way to make sure that drivers' rights are as protected as medallions, for instance. And our unit to date has helped drivers get back millions of dollars, and so far it's just above 3.2 million. Now I want to explain some of the types of complaints that we generally get from drivers. And the primary complaint is, I'm not getting paid. And so if someone's not paying your wages, your earned fares, for instance, or they're paying them late, then you can call me and let me know, and I can investigate. A part of the, so the handout that I actually passed out, the one that's very black, and is actually included down here and on the next page, it has some information about, you know, things that are required for medallion drivers. So for instance, you should have access to a lease, right? So you can understand what your agreement is. And you should have access to receipts, because you should know what you're being charged and what you're paying. Another complaint that we end up getting is that you're being charged more than you're supposed to be charged under the law. So this handout, basically there's two types of handouts that break down what the lease cap is. And a lease cap is, there's a maximum that someone can charge when you're leasing the vehicle, and it breaks down the different types of vehicles and the rates that are permissible by law. One of the things I do want to point out is for the daily and weekly taxi cab driver bill of rights. It outlines the cap for the lease amount for a 12-hour shift. So for instance, if you're looking at the standard amount for the lease that's weekly, at the end it says $630. If you're keeping the car for the whole day, like 24 hours, then that would be times 2. And then I'm sorry, this handout also lists basically what you can be charged, what you can't be charged, and it also has a portion at the end where, for instance, if you come to me with a complaint and somebody takes action against you because you complained to the TLC, they're not supposed to do that. So that would be a violation. But at the end of the flyer, it has a phone number, which forwards now to my 718 number because we moved from Manhattan to Queens. That's the new number is actually at the end of this presentation for the driver protection unit. It has the 718 number now where you can reach me. So feel free to save that and share it with your friends who are drivers. But that's the number that you can call, 718-391-5539. And then there's an email address, driverprotection@tlc.nyc.gov. But if for some reason you see this number, because these are actually supposed to be posters that are posted in the garages so you can know what your rights are and know who to contact when your rights are being violated. If you do call the 212 number, it's still you're going to hear a message that gives the 718 number where you can reach me. And just one more thing that I want to get into that seems to happen sometimes is that drivers are sometimes victims of identity theft. So at some point you might get something in the mail that says you committed this violation. And you read through it and you say, well, I wasn't driving on this day, I wasn't even in the country. Or maybe you're thinking to yourself, I've never driven a yellow cab, I've only ever driven Uber and Lyft. Well, if that's the case, then what's going on? Is somebody using my information, like my hack license number? Is someone using my DMV license? So those are cases that we take on as well. Sometimes, we happen to stumble upon it because we run trip data to see if people are logging into multiple vehicles at the same time. And, one person can't be driving 2 cars at once. But we do get identity theft complaints sometimes, and those are one of the issues that you can complain to me about. But that's basically it. There is one last flyer. We made sure to basically simplify the types of cases that we deal with. And so, if you're not getting paid or you're getting paid late, that's me. If you don't understand the fees that you're being charged, again, you can come to me with a complaint. And if you're being treated unfairly by someone you work for or another TLC driver, you can also complain to me. There are some cases that we don't take on, but for instance, if it's something that needs to be referred out, like if the matter that you're complaining about should really be somewhere else, like small claims court or civil court, I can help direct you as to where to go. And then we also share with you information to other organizations that offer help for free, because we understand that drivers are kind of going through a tough time and can't always afford representation in the courts. So that's basically a summary of the driver protection unit. So this is where you can contact us, the phone number, email address, and when someone answers, that's probably me. Thank you.
At this point, I would request Brother Minkar Abdul Rahman from Darul Uloom. He is the Dean of Darul Uloom. I would request him to say a few words about what Darul Uloom is actually doing.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I also like to greet everyone who is our visitors here, the Taxi and Limousine Commission, Core Vision Foundation, and all of our taxi drivers who are on the field doing the important work of taking us to the destinations we need to go to. When I see these type of gatherings where there's a worry and there's a concentration on how we can bridge gaps and how people's confusions can be cleared up and how things can be made clearer, this is a very, very great indication that the work that we are doing, it has a great opportunity to become much better, because we know that still at this time, but in the past, there were many times that passed in this beautiful world where the voices of those who were confused could not be listened to. And people were just left in the loom, and they were not able to understand their rights and things like this. So this is a very blessed occasion that we can voice what things we are confused about, and there's answers there, and those who are above us and over us, they are able to explain to us what we have to do. So this is a great opportunity for us that in this time we have many of our different categories of work that we have, whether it be in the taxi business, sanitation, whatever it may be. In our schools also, we have this type of thing where we can voice our concerns, and it doesn't fall on deaf ears, as they say. So we thank the people involved for coming here and choosing our Dar Ulum for doing this. Dar Ulum, just to let you know a little bit about what it is, because I'm sure half of the people here maybe can't even pronounce the name of it. Dar Ulum, what is it? So basically we are an Islamic school in the same way that there's gaps in, to be bridged in the taxi business and everything. In the Islamic community, in the Muslim community also, there are many gaps as well. Sometimes people don't understand in regards to Islam what the Quran, our holy book, is saying to us and what types of things we have to do in our Islam. So the ones who bridge that gap and the ones who teach the people are, of course, just like in Judaism, the rabbi, or in Christianity, the priest. We have what we call imams and ulama, scholars of Islam, which are not many. It's only a small part of the community, but there are some kids who, first of all, in the beginning stages, they memorize the whole Quran. It's truly, we call it, of course, a miracle of Islam, that small children, and we give you the opportunity also to go upstairs for the ladies if they want. We have a girls section also, and we have a boys section as well. If you want to visit after this, you may. There are small kids the age of 8, 9 years old, and they are learning the whole Quran by heart. And the Quran is basically, different books have different amount of pages. It matters how it's written, but you're looking at nothing less than 600 pages of Arabic also. And the kids are not Arabs also. Many of them are from Bangladesh, Pakistan, they're African American, Hispanic, whatever it may be, but they are memorizing the whole Quran. So they do this, and it takes them about 3-4 years to do this. So that's one program that we do here. And another program that we have is our Alim section, where kids become scholars of Islam. It's a 7-year course where they learn the Arabic language, they learn the different rules and laws about Islam, they learn the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, the meaning and the exegesis of the Quran, of the Holy Book Quran, and also they learn other things, like for example computer, and they do the academics as well, where they learn their math and science and English and all these different departments. They get their diploma here as well, and that is basically what we are doing here. With that as well, it's an environment of piety. The kids learn how to pray, and they do their prayers 5 times a day. They wear uniforms that are visually Islamic. You can see that they're Islamic uniforms, and we inculcate in them respect for all the communities, not only the Muslim community, but all of our communities, and the land that we live in, America. We make sure we inculcate in them the respect and honor of elders and all of the different communities altogether. We thank you for coming here, and also we ask you to, in our morale, in the way that you give us enthusiasm in the way that you come here. We really respect you for coming and choosing this place. We ask you to pray for us. And also, we also ask you, because we are a school that is basically running on the good spending and the generosity of the communities. So especially the Muslims from amongst here, remember us in your donations, zakat, and of course in sadaqat, helping out the kids to learn Islam, because it's very important, especially in this country, that young kids, and these are not kids from other countries and things like this, these are kids here who are Knicks fans, they're Met fans, they're regular, normal kids. They wear LeBron James jerseys during the weekend, and they have superheroes that they love and things like that. These kids, if they're channeled in the right way, they can do a lot of good, and they can be very pious and upright citizens of America in the future. I thank you for coming again, and we welcome you at any time, not only now, at any time you may come and visit us, and we hope that this was a very fruitful and beneficial meeting, and we hope to have more in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so we are going to open the floor up for questions. If you have any questions, we also have translators here if anyone is in need of a translator. But if you have questions about what you heard from Taxi and Limousine, about enforcement or about prosecution, you can ask those questions. If you have any specific cases, like you have something going on and you want advice on it, we also have people here who could talk to you about what you have going on. So now is the time to ask any questions you may have. And if you need a translator, we can provide one for you.
Hi, thank you everybody here. Thank you for coming here and try to address our concerns here. I see the name of this gathering is a seminar on the empowerment of cab drivers. Because I've been a cab driver for a long time, and I have so many things and many concerns with the TLC and so many grievances. And it is kind of oxymoron to see that the TLC is trying to empower the drivers. I just can't. I don't understand that. But let me. And when I'm going to talk a little bit, so because my talk embeds a lot of questions for everybody here concerned with the TLC. So it's going to be a question for everybody. So the empowerment, number one, is first to empower somebody. Like we're talking here about money. We work for money, and these people have families and have everything for money. And when you look at the TLC, how they treat the drivers, you just look at the drivers like cash machine, just like an ATM, like anything. Like look at the state laws and traffic laws. Every single traffic law of the state, the TLC put double or 3 times the amount of money that the state was for the same charge. Like let's say it is a stop sign or a red light, okay? Whatever, let's say the TLC double 3 times or 3 times fines the driver for the same offense. When they know very, very well, the drivers, they don't make money. At least if you try to be fair, be just like the state. Be like the state, don't exceed the state. I know you're going to say, oh, you are professional drivers. But the whole country, the whole state are some of them professional, some of them they have under the same roof, the roof of these rules of the state. Why the cab drivers pay double or 3 times?
So the question is,
Yeah.
and can you give a specific example?
I'll give you a specific example. I just got a stop sign ticket. Just my hearing is coming 3 days from now, 4 days from now, and they say it is $400. If you settle, I just got a settlement letter, and it says if you settle for $250. Check the state law. I know I'm not guilty and I can't defend myself, but why should a cab driver pay $400 for a ticket, for a stop sign, when the state, and they know, and this is disproportionate with the income of the drivers? This is number one, because I know the lady, maybe somebody is going to answer this question. The second thing, everything, like the directives, the sister here, she said, if we give you a directive, you have to listen to it, otherwise you're going to fine. Everything is about fines, everything. Like, unbelievable. Like, if you don't give the TLC, your email address. We want everybody to, I don't want to have an email address, for example. I don't want it. It's my right. You say, oh, you pay a fine, $300 if you don't give us an email address. Why should somebody try to drive a taxi have an email address? Otherwise, he pay a fine.
Okay, so I want to give the panel a chance to answer some of the
Because I have more. You're going to give me.
Okay, so they need to answer.
Okay. That's one thing. So I have more things to say. If you want to answer them, because I'm going to talk, and then everybody pick whatever you want to answer. You say that point. So the prosecutor, the sister here, she talked. You are head of prosecution, right?
Not exactly, but I support the assistant.
Yes, assistant. Like I got a ticket at JFK.
Brother, what?
So it's in TLC rules that you must have an email address on file. So when you get a directive, it's never going to ask you to do something that is in opposition or contrary to TLC rules. If we're asking you for an email address, it means it's required by our rules, right? So what's funny, because you use the example of email address, if you come in and you actually update your email address, we just withdraw the summons generally. That's generally our policy. Any type of directive, and again, I think I said this earlier during the presentation, any type of directive that you receive that requires compliance, if you cannot comply and you have a good reason, communication is key, right? If you have a good reason as to why you were not able to comply, or you cannot comply, if you communicate with us, we're willing to help you. We can extend the deadline. We can work with you. So I don't think it's as easy as, a directive means that automatically you're going to get a summons. It's really not necessarily true. And again, communication is key. If there's a good reason as to why you cannot comply, you let us know, and we would be happy to work with you.
And I also would just add, just because I hear from a lot of drivers, that fines are also in place to be a deterrent, to have you stop whatever the behavior is. And sometimes I think that gets lost in translation. We would prefer you not engage in the behavior and engage in safer behavior. It's a deterrent to stop the behavior. And I think people think that the fines are in place against drivers, but they are in place to promote safety, safe driving on the road, and deter behavior. So I just wanted to add that. So are there any other questions that anyone would like to ask? Yes, sir.
I can answer that.
You didn't understand?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, thank you.
So, in bus lanes and in no standing zones, we're reasonable, right? So you can discharge and a passenger can enter a vehicle in the moment that you're stopping and they're exiting. If your passenger is not there, you don't see them when you arrive, then unfortunately, you can't just be standing in the bus lane because it has a rippling effect and it delays transportation for those passengers that are traveling in the buses. And this is a big problem throughout the city. So unfortunately, if you don't see your passenger there when you arrive, then you would have to go around the block, maybe find some other area where you may be able to wait for a few minutes where you're allowed to park. But as far as no standing in a bus lane, if you're not discharging or a passenger's not entering, you can't stand. Yeah,
That
so
is convenient for him.
So the thing is, you have a passenger that's asking you to wait because they're going to do something and come back to the car. Like the prosecutor said, communication is important even for the passenger. Explain to the passengers, listen, I will get fined by the police department, by the TLC, if my vehicle is here standing. I can discharge you so it's convenient for you to be as close as possible to where you're going to. You can call me, I'll come around the block and I'll come and pick you up, but you have to communicate that with the passengers. I know it's tough because we want to, make our customers happy, but it is the traffic rules of the city.
Yes, sometimes the passenger complain to Uber or if they don't complies, passenger complain. This is a practical situation actually.
Sure. So I get that we have sometimes passengers that have disability and challenges and might need more time to get to where you're going to be to meet them.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's the purpose of communicating with them, going around the block till you see them. It's not a perfect situation where I can say, well, if the person's disabled, then you're going to be able to just sort of wait. I don't want to lead you to believe that. It's challenging. Our officers do have discretion. So, you can explain to the officer that may stop you and they may tell you, well, you have to move along. So our officers are very, very reasonable. But I don't want you to, an NYPD officer may stop you, right? And they may decide that when you're waiting, you're standing, it's a summarizable offense. So it's just really about communicating with your customer group. And maybe this is something that Uber should have with their larger customers that request their services. Just let us know when you're going to be arriving on time and you can work it out with the passenger.
But once the passenger is appeared, then we can stop and he can get.
absolutely, yeah, the person can enter the vehicle, the person can.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand the question. So, your friend came over to TLC, what, to handle the summons? To handle the summons that he had? Okay, so if, you come to TLC, you take a ticket, and you're trying to settle your summons or speak to a TLC prosecutor, if you believe that they are being rude to you, you can ask for that person's supervisor. Okay, and the supervisor will come and speak to you and find out what your concerns are, what your specific issues are as far as how your issue was handled, and it'll be addressed. We'll talk to the prosecutor, give them constructive feedback, and if it's something that's, that continues and happens again and again, it could potentially lead to something more serious like a disciplinary action. It's best to ask for a supervisor if you believe you're being treated very poorly.
Yes, and to add to what Leandra said, another option, if you're interested, is that you can put in an official complaint through 311. You can say, you can put in a complaint with 311 against a city worker. And that is something you can do if you've walked away already. I would say the first thing to do is definitely ask for the person's supervisor. If you feel like it warrants a complaint, an official complaint through 311, that's another thing you can do. You can put a complaint in, you can do that online at home, and that complaint also will come to the agency and it will be addressed. Okay? Questions? So you have a follow-up question. Okay, so before you go again, I just want to make sure I'm not taking anyone's turn. Does anyone else have a question that you'd like to? Okay, so let's get this gentleman first. I promise I'll come back.
Thank you, I can.
Okay.
Thank you. I am actually black light car driver. I drive almost 25 years. Still I work in Elite. My iron is almost half. Before I'm making like $400 easy, 10 hours, but now is half because, too many competition and price is low. But there is any way, because too many drivers coming and a lot of problem for traffic, city. I don't know, I just, my opinion said that, but you guys know maybe much better than me. Like Uber have maybe 50, 60,000 cars, but I have to work 2-3 company, make a living. Because there is no business. My price go down half less I earn. But TLC permit everyone, million car coming now. Now they don't know drive their, F. Problem is the car business, and there is any plan, because like now maybe I am say like 50,000 car. Now maybe 100,000 car coming, but problem is nobody make money. Nobody make money. There is any plan, limited car. Before it used to be a black car, you have to be 2-year experience, and if you license 2 years, and then they take an interview, and then work with black car as a professional driver. But you started by car, credit card, and then I start Uber. They don't know experience. They don't know nothing. They're driving, middle block, and they're looking and stop. And they're looking at stuff. People, I can drive, There is any plan, you can do anything, because I don't know, it's too much problem now. This is everybody suffering, no make money, But you have anything planned, do, because of what you should do.
Yeah. No, I do understand that, and we do hear a lot from drivers about the overcrowding.
Young generation, they're supposed to be college. They buy car, they start Uber.
Yeah.
You would believe they don't make money, but suffering everywhere. They're supposed to go college.
Yeah, it is a large population of drivers and vehicles. So just to be clear, TLC doesn't have the jurisdiction to stop the growth of the industry. So that has to be city council to slow down the number of, who can give that mandate to stop the growth. So we don't, that's not something we can do, but we are aware of the fact that drivers are struggling to make the income that they once did. And we are working on really studying and really looking at driver income and seeing, you know, what policies can support driver income. So yes, it is something we are aware of, and it is something that we are working on.
I just
So I appreciate that comment. No, I do understand.
But my, opinions. But,
Of course.
Whole generation is gonna finish. Watch after 10 years, they don't go college. They're gonna drive.
Yeah, no, I
They
do.
finish. They work, even any kind of, grocery store. They can supervisor. Now they're driving. That's it.
Yeah, no.
They have to pay
I've heard
credit
this
card bill,
before.
they have to pay insurance, like $800 1 month, right? So how gonna go college?
Yeah.
They have to pay bill first. They say part-time, actually full-time, have to work.
No, I do understand your point, I really do. And I will reiterate that, but we're aware of
They
it,
should
working on
do
it.
that,
Yeah,
Yeah, because most of my questions may be directed at one direction, so going toward one direction. Like last year, I got because you are head of enforcement, right?
that's
Yes. Because like last year, I got a ticket from JFK dispatch. She said she used profanity with me, and she asked me, like I was on the line, the rule at JFK, like when they dispatch you to the terminal, you wait there, after 15 minutes, you have the right to request that to be transferred to another terminal. And then, like after 25 minutes, I went to the dispatch and I said, "Can you transfer us to another terminal?" She told me, she spoke very foul language, so I said, "Okay." I said, when I answered back, I answered her politely, and she told me, I told her it's about your ego. Somebody like upset you, you make him all the drivers suffer, you are not sending him to another terminal, and it's about your ego. It's because she told me, "Who are you to talk about my ego? Give me your hand license." I said, "I'm not going to be giving you my hand license." She told me, "Okay." She went, when I came, and she started later on transferring cab drivers to another terminal. She got I got out of my car and I said, "Here's a license." She refused to take it. She told me, "I'm going to give you something that you didn't give it to me." So I got my cell phone and the license. Put the license between me and her. I took a picture. She refused to take it. What happened? She complained to the TLC. The TLC, they sent me 2 violations. $300 minimum, $400 maximum. Refusal to give and these are the laws 512J and 512I, I guess. Refusal to give the credential. So as they offer me a settlement for $100, I refuse to pay the $100. 3 times the TLC, the first time they didn't send me the hearing date. I was found guilty by default. I went there, I got the guilty vacated. Then after that, I know the TLC what they're doing. Maybe they don't. I'm not going to send me a letter again. So every week I go to the TLC. Do I have a hearing? Do I have a hearing? Do I have a hearing? Until one day I got a letter. I have a hearing. When I went to the hearing, the lady, she didn't show up, and the prosecutor, the TLC prosecutor, was there. And he said, "Listen, we try to settle with you." I said, "I don't want to settle. Just if you $800, I'm going to pay the $800 and take it to another court. It's not here." Then when the judge heard me like that, and he said, "Listen," I told him, "Listen, the dispatcher is not a law enforcement agent. She's a civilian."
ITV, Call of Peace, Save Humanity.